Table 9, the manager whispered. I looked up from my drink. Your wife's at table 9. I didn't ask how he knew. I didn't ask why he looked nervous. I just nodded, slid my glass forward, and stood up like I'd done it 1,000 times before. Let me explain something. I hadn't seen Dana in 4 days. Not since her late-night drive to clear her head turned into absolute silence. Not a call, not a text, not a note. Her car was gone. Her clothes were mostly still in our closet. She left the dog. She left me. So what was she doing here, at the same restaurant I walked into tonight, trying to drink my confusion into something that didn't feel like betrayal? And why was he sitting across from her? I saw them before I even reached the corner. She wasn't wearing her ring. That was the first thing I noticed. She always said it was too tight. Funny, she never mentioned that until a month ago. Her hand looked lighter without it. Freer. Her fingers danced on the rim of a wine glass while she leaned into him like they'd done this 100 times. Like this was normal. I didn't rush. I didn't shout. I just walked. Each step felt like chewing glass. I made it to the table and stood there. Quiet. Long enough that she had to notice. And she did. She blinked, as if I were a glitch. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Just a small exhale that wasn't fear or guilt. It was inconvenience. Wesley, she said, like I was the one interrupting her evening. I didn't look at her. I looked at him. Do you know she's married? I asked. My voice cracked. I hated that. He shrugged. Not my business. That was the second thing I noticed. He had no shame. No apology. No awkward glance. No hint of respect for the man whose life he'd been stuffing himself into like a borrowed suit. He just sipped his wine and watched me. Waiting, probably, to see if I'd cry or swing or beg. But I didn't do any of that. I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out the velvet box, and without saying a word, I placed it on the table, right next to her drink. Her fingers froze above her phone. I didn't slam it. I didn't flip the table. I didn't demand answers. I just opened the box, slow, revealing the wedding band she slipped off 4 days ago and left by the sink like it was nothing but a forgotten accessory. I pushed it toward her. You'll want this back, I said. And then I turned and walked away. I didn't even make it 3 steps before I heard the glass shatter. But that wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part came exactly 6 minutes later, when the police showed up. The sirens weren't loud. They didn't storm in like a scene from some action movie. No, the officers walked in calm, methodical even, like they already knew what table they were heading to. That's what chilled me. I wasn't even fully out of the restaurant when they entered, and they didn't look around. They didn't ask the hostess anything. They just made a straight line toward table 9, like this whole night had been rehearsed. I stepped aside as they passed me. One of them glanced at me briefly, just a half-second flick of the eyes, and then dismissed me entirely. I wasn't who they were here for. Dana stood up fast when she saw them. Too fast for someone who claimed I was being dramatic. I watched her stiffen, like her body was trying to decide whether to run or collapse. Her lover, Hunter or Hudson or whatever fake deep name he had, stayed seated, arms folded like he'd dealt with cops before and didn't plan to get up unless dragged. I moved closer, close enough to hear what one officer said. Ma'am, we need to speak with you outside. Now. Dana's voice cracked. Wait, why? What is this? But they didn't answer. They just flanked her and guided her toward the exit like they were used to people pretending to be confused. I stepped back so she'd have to pass by me. Her eyes met mine for only a second, and that second was enough. I've never seen fear like that on her face. Not guilt, not shame, actual fear. And in that moment, I knew 2 things. 1, this wasn't just about cheating. And 2, she thought I knew more than I did. Which, surprise, was true. She passed by, lips trembling. She didn't say my name. Didn't whisper an apology. Nothing. Just kept her eyes low and let the officers walk her into the night. I stayed. I sat right back down in his seat across from the half-drunk wine glass she'd left behind. Hunter was still sitting there, somehow calm, like this happened to him every Tuesday. So, I said, trying to steady my voice. You want to tell me why my wife's being taken out of here like she robbed a bank? He smirked. You sure you want the truth? That smirk, that stupid, smug smirk, it broke something in me. I've had nothing but lies for months, I muttered. Try something new. He leaned forward, real casual, like we were 2 guys swapping poker strategies instead of sitting in the ruins of my marriage. She didn't just leave you, Wesley, he said. She was setting you up. That was the moment the air left my lungs. I didn't respond right away. I just stared at him, waiting for him to laugh. Say it was a joke. Tell me I was on some hidden camera show where the punchline was my entire life. But he didn't laugh. And what he said next made the shattered wine glass on the floor seem like a minor detail compared to what was really broken. You ever wonder why she started being so nice all of a sudden? He said, still leaning back like this was casual. The breakfast, the flirting, the bar date. It wasn't guilt. It was strategy. I stared at him, my jaw tight. I wanted to walk away. But some disgusting part of me, maybe the same part that stayed married after the first red flag, needed to hear it. She was laying groundwork, he continued, picking at the label on his beer, making you feel wanted, creating a timeline, all while quietly slipping her name off things and yours onto others. I shook my head slowly. What the hell are you talking about? Hunter, if that was even his real name, smirked again, but there was no humor in it this time. Just pity. She wanted your name on the studio lease, he said. The warehouse too. The cash she moved from her business account to yours. She didn't do that because she trusted you. She did it because she knew what was coming. She needed the paper trail to say you owned it. Not her. I froze. I remembered the documents. The late-night requests for signatures. It's just a favor, babe. It helps me on taxes. That's what she said. And like the idiot I am, I signed them while brushing my teeth or half asleep on the couch. She's been funneling inventory, Wesley, he said, finally using my name like it was some kind of mercy. Art supplies, designer prints, equipment, selling it all through a third party under your name. If the feds came sniffing around, who do you think they'd pin it on? I couldn't breathe for a second. My ears were ringing. This had gone so far past cheating, I didn't even know what I was standing in anymore. She used me. I muttered, mostly to myself. Hunter gave a one-shoulder shrug. She used everyone. I was just the sugar. You were the shield. I laughed then, but it came out broken and hollow. I wasn't even mad at him anymore. I was mad at me. For trusting her. For believing in our little routines. For thinking a woman who suddenly asked how I liked my eggs wasn't planning to cook me for breakfast. And then something occurred to me. A thought that chilled me more than the betrayal. She didn't expect to get caught tonight, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Hunter looked at me, curious. No, she didn't. So who called the cops? He tilted his head and narrowed his eyes. You didn't. No. We both sat in silence for a moment. Long enough for the waiter to awkwardly collect the shattered glass near our feet. Long enough for the restaurant noise to slowly return to normal. But in my head, nothing was normal. Everything was spinning. She was laundering money through my name. I said again, this time more to solidify it for myself than to him. If they hadn't caught her tonight, you'd be in prison by next spring, Hunter said bluntly. Probably in debt for life. She covered her tracks real good. Until tonight. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. My body felt like it belonged to someone else. Where are you going? He asked, not smug now, maybe even a little wary. I looked at him, and for the first time, I wasn't shaking. I was still, cold, focused. I'm going home, I said, to find everything she left behind. Because if she was planning to burn my life down and vanish, I needed to know exactly how far her fire had already spread. And deep down, I had this awful feeling I hadn't even seen the worst of it yet. I don't remember the drive home. Not a single red light, not a single turn. My hands were gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles ached, and my thoughts were unraveling faster than I could catch them. Every word Hunter said echoed like thunder in my skull. She was setting you up. She wanted your name on it. She didn't expect to get caught. My house didn't even feel like mine when I pulled into the driveway. The porch light was still on, like she was expecting someone else to return. Maybe him. Maybe nobody. Maybe she never planned to come back at all. The door creaked when I opened it. Inside, it smelled like lavender and lemon. The same diffuser scent she always kept going. Familiar. Safe. Fake. I dropped my keys, stepped out of my shoes, and stood in the living room trying to decide where to begin. The silence was heavy, but something felt wrong. Not just emotionally. Physically. Like something had shifted. I walked down the hallway, passing the framed vacation photo of us from Cape Cod. The one she made me hang straight, even though she hated how her hair looked in it. Her side of the bed was neatly made, just like she always left it. But when I got to the guest room door, I paused. It was cracked open. We never used the guest room. She always said the room gave her bad energy. The bed was stripped, the curtains drawn, and for the longest time, it was just a dumping ground for boxes and clutter. But now the door was slightly open, just enough to make my skin crawl. I pushed it open and stepped inside. At first, I didn't see anything unusual. Same dusty furniture. Same unopened boxes from when we moved in 2 years ago. But then I noticed the closet. The door wasn't fully shut. Not like we always kept it. Something inside me hesitated. That old animal instinct. The one that screams, "Don't open it," flickered. But I did. Of course I did. Inside were 2 large duffel bags. One was packed with cash. Stacks of it. Not 20s. Hundreds. Dozens of neat, rubber-banded bundles stuffed to the brim, like a scene from a crime show. I dropped to my knees and unzipped the second bag. Documents, burner phones, and a passport. 2 passports. One was hers. The other? Mine. But it wasn't my actual passport. It was a fake. My name, but a different photo. A totally different man. I felt sick. Cold sweat broke across my back as I pulled out the burner phone and turned it on. No passcode. Just one contact listed. Labeled, "If he gets caught." I didn't even want to know what that meant. But my thumb clicked it anyway. It opened a text thread. Just one message. "If he figures it out before the accounts are closed. Plan B. Say he hit you. Cry. Use the old photos." I dropped the phone like it burned me. My ears started ringing again. She had this plan down to the script. She was going to frame me for abuse if the financial setup didn't work. She kept old photos, probably taken from arguments years ago, frozen mid-yell to look like something darker. Just in case. I sat down on the floor. My own house felt like a trap now. I didn't know what was real anymore. Every moment with her, every kiss, every hug, every fight, felt poisoned in retrospect. My marriage was a crime scene. And the worst part? I didn't even know when the crime began. But then I heard something. A knock. 3 soft knocks at the front door. I checked the time. 1:12 a.m. And I wasn't expecting anyone. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. Just waited. Then came the second knock. This time louder. Slower. Followed by a woman's voice. "Wesley, open up. It's about Dana. Please. I don't have much time." I stayed frozen on the floor for what felt like a full minute after I heard her voice. My legs didn't want to move. My brain couldn't form a single clear thought, and my chest felt like it was filling with concrete. Every single cell in my body screamed not to open that door. But curiosity is a dangerous thing, especially when you've already lost everything. Another knock came, sharper this time. And then the voice again. "Wesley, please. I'm not here to hurt you. I just need 5 minutes." She was never supposed to drag you into this. That last sentence hit different. Never supposed to drag me into this. Who the hell was this? I finally stood up and walked to the door slowly. Quietly. I didn't speak until I looked through the peephole and saw a woman I didn't recognize. Blonde, late 30s maybe, sharp eyes that darted around like she expected someone to follow her. She looked more scared than I was, and that's saying something. I opened the door just a crack. "Who are you?" She hesitated. "My name's Noel. I was Dana's accountant, sort of." I blinked. "Sort of. I handled things she didn't want on the record," she said quickly. "Cash drops. Shell corporations. Inventory logs." Until she stopped paying me. I opened the door fully. I shouldn't have. I know that now. But something about her expression told me she wasn't lying. She looked like someone whose world was collapsing, just like mine. She walked in without waiting for permission. Went straight to the living room like she'd been there before. She didn't sit down. Just turned to face me and said, I think she was going to fake her death. My heart stopped. I stared at her, waiting for a punchline. Nothing came. "I know how that sounds," she said, lowering her voice. But she asked for very specific documents. Death certificate templates. Identity erase protocols. Offshore accounts under aliases. She wanted to leave, disappear, and make it look permanent. I tried to process it, but my brain just shut down halfway through. And I was supposed to be the what? The grieving husband? Noelle shook her head. You were supposed to be the scapegoat. If it went wrong, if the money was traced, or if one of her identities got flagged, she planned to pin the whole operation on you. I found notes, scripts, a burner message that said, he'll look guilty. Let him. I felt dizzy again, like the floor was tilting under me. She used me. I whispered. She really used me. Noelle pulled something from her coat, a flash drive. This has everything I've collected. Backups of the transactions, fake passports, her fake ID photos, bank transfers, crypto accounts she forgot I had access to. If you want to protect yourself, you're going to need this. I didn't reach for it. I just stared at it, like touching it would make it all real. And why are you giving this to me? I finally asked. She looked away, her voice suddenly quieter. Because she used me too. Promised I'd get a cut when it was all over. But then she ghosted me. Told people I was unstable. I saw what she was doing to you and I. I couldn't let her ruin someone else the way she ruined me. I slowly took the drive from her hand. It was warm. Wesley, she said carefully, Dana isn't just dangerous because she's manipulative. She's dangerous because she doesn't think she's doing anything wrong. She truly believes she's the victim. I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could say a word, my phone lit up on the counter. Unknown number. A new message. I walked over, unlocked it, and opened the text. You shouldn't have gone through the closet. I stared at the message on my phone like it had teeth. You shouldn't have gone through the closet. It didn't have a name. Just a blank number. No avatar. No punctuation. Like it had been written by someone who already knew it would land like a knife. Noelle stepped closer and looked over my shoulder. When she read it, she didn't ask who it was from. She just whispered, "She knows you're awake." My mind was racing in every direction at once. Was she watching the house? Had she bugged the place? How long had she been setting this up? How deep did this thing go? I turned off the phone, pulled the battery out. Yeah, I still had one of those, and tossed it on the kitchen counter. Noelle didn't flinch. She looked like someone who'd lived through worse. You think she knows I met you? I asked. She'll assume it, Noelle said. She probably doesn't know I gave you the drive, but if she thinks you've figured out even half of it, she'll do whatever she can to finish the story the way she planned it. What does that mean? I asked. What story? Noelle didn't answer right away. She walked over to the window, peeked through the blinds, and then turned back to me like she was choosing her words carefully. Dana always needed a villain, she said. In every version of her life, someone else was the problem. Her ex, her old boss, her college roommate, her mother. It was always someone else's fault. She needs that to survive. And right now, you're the one standing in the way of her vanishing clean. I sat down on the couch, the weight of everything finally slamming into me like a freight train. The marriage, the fake documents, the stolen money, the setup, the text. The part of me that still remembered our first road trip together, that still remembered her humming to Fleetwood Mac with the window down, was trying to convince me she was just scared, that this had spiraled, that maybe she didn't really mean to ruin me. But the other part, the part that had just found a bag of cash and a burner phone labeled with instructions to cry abuse, knew better. Noelle sat down across from me and pulled a folded sheet of paper from her coat. You're not going to like this, she said, but I think you need to see it. It was a printed email. I didn't recognize the sender, but the subject line was enough to make my skin crawl. Wesley's mental health file, confirmed access approved. I scanned the email. Dana had contacted a therapist's office, my old therapist, and used a forged release form to request access to my session history. Notes, prescriptions, mental health status. Every breakdown I'd ever whispered in confidence. Every fear, every word I thought was safe. She's building a case, I said, my voice shaking. She wants to make it look like I snapped. Noelle nodded. It gets worse. That email? It was forwarded to a private investigator. I leaned forward, my breath shallow. Why? To fabricate a timeline. She's been collecting footage, screenshots, witness statements, all to prove you've been unstable for months. That if anything happened to her, it was because you couldn't handle her leaving. I stood up. I couldn't sit anymore. I walked in a small circle, dizzy with rage and humiliation. She's faking an entire history to make me look violent, unstable, dangerous, so she can vanish and pin the chaos on me. And then it hit me. She's not running from me, I said slowly. She's setting me up to take the fall after she's already gone. The knock at the door this time wasn't gentle. It was a fist. 3 sharp pounds. Noelle stood, her eyes wide. Did you tell anyone I was coming? No, I said. We both stood in silence. Then the voice came. Mr. Keene? Charleston Police. We need to ask you a few questions about your wife's whereabouts. But here's the thing. I knew Dana had already been taken into custody earlier that night. So why were the police here now? And why didn't they say they were looking for her? The second I cracked the door open, I knew something was off. The 2 officers standing there didn't look like the ones from earlier. No badges displayed, No urgency in their eyes. Just calm, casual stares. Too calm. One of them, the older one with slicked-back gray hair, gave me a polite nod. Mr. Keene, we received a report that your wife is missing. Can we come in and ask you a few questions? But Dana had been escorted out of a restaurant in handcuffs less than 2 hours ago. She wasn't missing. She was in custody. Unless she wasn't anymore. Noelle stepped into view behind me. She didn't say anything, but the way she stared at the man, I could tell she'd already spotted the same thing I had. They never identified their department. And they knew my name without asking. I didn't unchain the door. Do you have a warrant? I asked, trying to keep my voice even. The younger one gave a tight smile. It's just a few questions, sir. You've got nothing to hide, right? That's when I shut the door. No slamming. No yelling. Just a quiet, deliberate close. Noelle's eyes were wide. She's using private contractors. What? Fake uniforms. It's a trick. I've seen it before. She's trying to recover something from inside the house without going through legal channels. I stepped back from the door, my mind racing. Recover what? Noelle glanced toward the guest room. The bags. Or the flash drive. Or something else you haven't found yet. We didn't wait around. She grabbed her coat. I grabbed the drive, and we slipped out the back. I don't know if they saw us leave, but we didn't stop. We got in my car, hearts pounding, and drove without speaking. It wasn't until we were a mile out that I finally asked the question that had been burning in my throat the entire time. Why is she still coming after me if she's already disappeared? Noelle looked straight ahead and whispered, because she left a mess. And she knows you're the only one who can still bury her. We didn't go to a hotel. That would have been too easy to trace. Noelle knew a place outside the city, an old lakeside cottage her aunt used to own before it was abandoned. No cameras, no neighbors, just peeling wood and the sound of water slapping the dock like a heartbeat. It felt like the only safe place left in the world. We stayed there for 3 days. During that time, we combed through everything on the flash drive. The deeper we went, the clearer it became. Dana hadn't just wanted to disappear. She wanted to rise somewhere else, with a new name, clean accounts, and no loose ends. And I had been the final loose end. She'd forged documents using my identity, rerouted stolen funds through fake LLCs, predated psychological reports to make me look unstable, and even sent anonymous complaints to HR at my job suggesting erratic behavior. It was textbook character assassination. She wasn't going to vanish until I looked guilty enough to take the heat she left behind. But the thing she didn't count on? Me not collapsing. I took everything Noelle and I found and handed it over to someone I never thought I'd speak to again. My cousin, Ellis, who just so happened to work in cybercrime for the state. We hadn't talked in years after a dumb family argument. But when I showed him what I had, his entire tone changed. He made one call, then another. Within 48 hours, a federal team was involved. Dana was already out on bail. That's why those fake officers showed up at my door. She'd been released before her charges were processed, likely using one of the same aliases we found on the drive. She had hours, maybe a day, before she disappeared again. But this time I was faster. They caught her at a private airfield 30 miles outside the city. She had a fake passport in her bag and more cash stuffed in her boots. She tried to cry, of course. Tried to say I was controlling, that I'd threatened her, that she was running for her safety. But the evidence was too strong, too real, too detailed. She was arrested, again, but this time on federal charges. Wire fraud, identity theft, attempted insurance fraud, and obstruction. She'll be in prison for a long time. I never went to the courtroom. I didn't need to. I read about it in the papers a week later. Apparently, she didn't cry when the sentence was read. She just stared forward, blank, like she was already somewhere else in her head. Somewhere sunny, probably, where none of this ever happened and she was still the hero. Let her stay there. I've had enough of her stories. As for me, I left the city. I sold the house. I quit the job she tried to ruin. And with some help from Ellis, I cleared every piece of false data she planted. My name is clean again. Noelle disappeared too, on her own terms. She left me a note. Some of us don't get to start over. But you do. So make it count. I don't know where she went. I hope she found peace. She deserved it. As for me, I found something better than revenge. I found quiet. I wake up now and make my own breakfast. I don't need to be asked how I like my eggs. I know, and that's enough.